Secretary of State Kris Warner is up next. Kris is second year on the job now, I guess. And he'll speak for, I think, about 20 minutes, and we'll take about 10 minutes of questions. So if you have any questions for Secretary Warner, keep those handy. And Kris, the mic is yours.
I'd like to thank the West Virginia Press Association, all of your members and affiliates for this opportunity to speak with you today about the Secretary of State's office legislative priorities for the upcoming session. But first, I'd like to talk a little bit about our accomplishments. Since I last saw you, I've had the opportunity to visit all 55 counties, visiting the county clerks in their offices to talk about how we can do things a little bit better. This is actually my third trip around the state, hitting all 55 counties. I did it once as state party chairman back in the early 2000s, and then again as the USDA state director and West Virginia Economic Development Director. But there was one visit that I wanted to pass along to you that really was very memorable for me. I had the opportunity to stop in and see Ed Gibbon at the Braxton Democrat and Citizens News. He's the publisher there, and we had a chance to talk. We actually awarded the Centurion Award for being in business for over 100 years, continuously. For the other papers, I think we have 29 that have been in business for 100 years. We will be out to see you soon. But in that visit with Ed Gibbon, he pointed out to me that how important the newspapers are. When I grew up, my dad had a small newspaper in Charleston, printed it in the basement, and it eventually went to 7 counties. So I understood the importance of the press, but Ed pointed out a county courthouse that had burned down, and they'd lost all the records. And he said, you know where they went to reestablish as many of those records as they could? And it didn't hit me. He goes, they went to the local newspaper. It was the newspaper that had been recording the deeds and transfers, and that's where they started to rebuild the courthouse. And it just set in my mind how important the print media is. A year ago, I stood before you after I'd been sworn in into this office for barely a month, and we discussed a slew of election and business legislative proposals. I'm pleased to report that we had a hugely successful session. We got photo voter ID passed, prohibiting non-citizens from participating in local elections, and ensured that ranked choice voting cannot be used in our cities, and streamlined the process for cleaning up our voter rolls. But we didn't just succeed in the legislature. We had a great year in all of our divisions. So today I'm very proud to announce the release of our annual report, which looks back at several different divisions and their accomplishments, some of which were due in part to our success during the last legislative session. A copy of the report can be picked up in the back from our staff. We have Diane and Wes. If you'll wave your hands, please. So we got Wes and Diane. In addition to being able to pick up a print copy of that annual report, we will send that out electronically to everyone in this group. If you're not receiving press releases from us, please let Diane or Wes know, and we'll get you on the list. Looking ahead to the upcoming session, we hope to build upon our success from last year. While we have several bills we've crafted, there are a few I'd like to discuss today. First, I'd like for the legislature to consider opening an Office of Entrepreneurship. My business division doesn't just register new businesses. They're a solid team of experts who have decades of experience helping business owners navigate the entire process from start to finish for whatever's needed to get an idea off the ground and their doors open. My office is a founding member of the West Virginia's entrepreneurship ecosystem. And since its inception more than 6 years ago, we have been the ecosystem's go-to resource for assistance and guidance with navigating the government's various agencies, rules, requirements, forms, permits, and certifications, just so they can open a small business. Especially for our young entrepreneurs and second income business owners. Many of them don't have time to figure out all of the hoops they have to hop through to start a new business and keep it from going under in the first 3 years. That's critical in all of this, and at the core of our mission, small businesses make up a majority of West Virginia's registered businesses, according to multiple studies. Every 1% increase in the rate of entrepreneurship in a state results in a 2% decrease in the poverty rate. And if my office can play a small role in that, while we're already helping them with their registration at our office, then we need to ensure those services stay long after I leave the office or the staff doing the work retire. Sure, there are resources and organizations that can help, but if the new business owner doesn't know who to ask or where to go or even what they need, then they get nowhere. So my office has stepped up to the plate. We want to build on our success by codifying our current efforts of helping these new businesses and first-time entrepreneurs navigate state agencies and processes. It's not a huge undertaking, but it's a huge help. We can refer them to appropriate agencies or partners for assistance that we can't provide and identify systemic barriers for these folks so the legislature has a better idea of the kinds of policies that will help support entrepreneurs and small businesses. But we need a framework, a mission, and authority to obtain data and form interagency and private partnerships with organizations to help these entrepreneurs along the way. We don't want to compete with our partners in other agencies like the Department of Commerce and the West Virginia Economic Development Authority. They do fabulous work, especially that last administration. I had the opportunity to serve as the executive director and work with those folks. Emily, Joe Browse, and the team at EDA are fabulous in what they do for the state of West Virginia. But there's a gap in ground level help for entrepreneurs who simply need assistance, a liaison to help to navigate the government processes. This is a complementary effort in modeling other states' successes in this area. I'm looking forward to convincing the legislature that this measure would pay dividends to our economy and her people. Shifting to elections. It's an election year, and typically election-related legislation is delayed until after the election cycle. But that doesn't mean there aren't areas where we can improve the law to continue our track record of excellent election administration and transparency. One issue we hope to address with the legislature this year is looking at the growing problems of never resided voters. These folks are U.S. and West Virginia citizens by right, usually through their birth, but who have never resided as an adult in West Virginia. This scenario occurs typically when a child's parents lived in West Virginia and moved out of country before the child became an adult, or a child who was born to a West Virginia couple while in another country, and the child never returned to the United States. Under current law, they're allowed to vote in federal, state, and local elections, and register to vote at the address where their parents last resided, even if they no longer own property in West Virginia, including if the home is now a vacant lot. Under federal law, those never resided voters can participate in federal elections for Congress and the United States President. We can't change that. They're U.S. citizens, and unless they renounce their citizenship. But should these folks be voting for House of Delegates, County Commission, Prosecuting Attorney, Mayor, and City Council? This isn't just a policy issue, it's an election integrity issue. Under the law, these never resided folks can legally register on oath. That means any address they provide as their parents' last address, the county clerks must trust them and register them to vote. What we saw in 2024 was a number of people who registered to vote as never resided voters at addresses that no longer exist, such as a plot of land where the house was torn down and replaced with a commercial building or is now just a vacant lot. My office alone received more than an estimated 40 telephone calls from county officials on this issue in the last election. This is an opportunity for a bad actor to take advantage of America's recognition of citizens' right to vote and commit fraud that can impact federal, state, and especially local elections, where a single vote could be the difference. Just this last summer, we had 5 different elections for mayor, city council, and town recorder that all ended in a tie vote. That one vote would have made the difference. We're also looking to clarify the definition of residence for voter registration purposes. Right now, we have to rely on case law, and not everybody has access to legal databases and court opinions. Under the proposed bill, we define residence as the physical place a person lives, and if they leave that place, they have to intend to return to it. Voters can leave temporarily for work or school and maintain the residence in another county as long as they intend to return to that residence. This is not a new policy, but clarifies what the courts have put into place over decades of litigation over this issue. The law also clarifies that the residence that straddles a jurisdictional line, such as a home that is split by city limits, the place inside the home where the individual lays their head at night, shall be their county of residence. I know you're probably saying, does this really ever happen? And I would tell you, yes, it just happened this last year. It took countless hours of our investigative team's time to determine which county that person resided in. Another integrity issue measure we hope to address is the case of candidates who don't file their campaign finance statements on time. I know many of you in this room watch our campaign finance system regularly for reports as they come in every quarter. The last period ended this Wednesday, and 215 political committees missed filing the deadline. As of just a few minutes ago, I checked, only 20 of those had filed late, leaving 195 outstanding reports that are past due. This happens every period, usually because of forgetfulness or circumstances beyond the candidate's control. But nevertheless, these deadlines are important for public transparency into elections and the officials who one day may be making decisions on our behalf. To encourage timely filing, our proposal changes the late fee schedule from $10 per day to a range of fees between $100 or 10% of the cash on hand, whichever is greater, and $500 for a first offense. For second offenses and every delinquent filing thereafter, a fee between $200 or 15% of cash on hand, whichever is greater, and $1,000. So where does this money go? Is this a money grab by the Secretary of State? I will tell you absolutely not. All late fees go into the state's general revenue, and the Secretary of State's office does not keep a dime. There'll be a short grace period for the first 14 days after the filing period for folks to get their reports filed, and a sliding scale for calculating fair fees and maintaining discretion for simple mistakes and non-intentional delinquencies, such as the death of a loved one, hospital admission, system malfunction, power outages, and other situations usually outside of the filer's control that cause the delay in filing. This gives candidates and committees a greater opportunity to cure any defects in the filings without having to pay the fines under those types of circumstances. And for those who are regularly late, typically those are unsuccessful primary election candidates, we believe this will help with timely reporting. The proposal is not intended as a punishment, but an incentive to ensure that when you sign up to run for office and accept people's hard-earned money and your support, you're accountable to those donors by showing a public accounting of your spending in a timely fashion. We've also worked with your leadership at the Press Association to think of creative solutions to the problems that impact print media. We've done research and thought through some of the unintended consequences and helped with a proposal that would allow you to consider digital subscriptions for qualifying as a qualified newspaper that allowed to charge for legal advertisements. There are a number of nuances and requirements for local distribution to ensure that the folks for whom legal ads are intended actually receive them. but it's a good step forward to keep printed news in our localities while evolving up with the digital times. We have several other measures, and my staff can provide you with a list of those. We welcome the opportunity to chat about them. If you're interested, you can give us a call at any time. I do want to take a few more minutes and preview what we want to address. Amending the definition of the term electioneering to ensure creative messaging, such as a campaign slogan on a hat or a voter's verbal declaration against an issue on the ballot, does not enter the polling place. Current law prohibits campaign paraphernalia at the polls, but every election there are a few voters who refuse to remove candidate's hat or a button pin because of the lack of certainty. Former campaign slogans like MAGA or change would be permitted as long as it's not a slogan of a candidate on the current ballot. To preview, clarify who can and cannot enter a polling place during the voting period while voters are casting their ballots. We had some run-ins with federal law enforcement in 2024 who wanted to enter our polling places for ADA compliance checks while voting was ongoing. So while we welcome our federal partners to do their job, but there's no reason to be in a polling place while voters are voting, especially because their boss, the United States President, was on the ballot. This would reasonably make voters most uncomfortable to see a federal official in their West Virginia polling place, and we don't want our citizens to have to worry about anything other than making their voice heard privately in the ballot box. We were ultimately successful in deterring them from kicking in doors and flashing their badges to just observe, but the law could be better clarified to avoid that situation in the future. Next, we want to authorize county election officials to be the record keeper for municipal campaign finance reports. So this is to ensure timely disclosure of local finance activity and to start the shift from municipal run elections to county run elections by 2032 is required by a law that was passed in this last legislative session. We proposed legislation that would authorize my office to investigate complaints filed against fraudulent charity activities. Right now, we just have to pass the buck and hope local law enforcement agencies has the expertise and the time to look into those scams. Also, we want to prohibit the use of drones over polling places. Believe it or not, there were a couple of instances of drones flying near polling places on election day during municipal elections this last summer, which does not give voters much confidence in the privacy of their vote when they can look out a window and see one of those drones flying outside the window of the polling place. And finally, we want to incentivize voters to become poll workers by providing them a tax credit of $100 per election, which would max out at $200 per election year. It's a long, hard day, and when you're a poll worker, the pay is sometimes less than $200 for more than 12 hours of work. And every election we have a harder time getting folks to work in the polls. It's our hope that a tax credit will be further incentive for folks to be part of the democratic process and without strapping already strained county budgets. I'm excited for the upcoming session to get underway. We have 1 year under our belt with the current body, and we're looking forward to educating them on the issues and ideas that will allow my office to better serve the state. And of course, I look forward to working with you, the press, and your association throughout our nation's history. Newspapers have played a critical role in our society and government, and it's not lost on any of us that the advent of the internet and cost of publications online have hurt your industry. While my office plays a minor role in your well-being, not being qualified to run legal ads could be detrimental to your revenues. So my door is open to you all to ensure you meet the requirements to be a qualified newspaper. Thank you again for the invitation. I look forward to seeing many of you under the dome over the next 2 months, and I'm available for questions. Steve,
I'll speak loud enough here. I don't know if I missed this part of your presentation, but the John, how was that?
All right. I don't know if you addressed this, but I think in the last week, the U.S. Postal Service has raised concerns that same-day postmark might not be a thing going forward. That could obviously affect mail-in ballots, whether you're talking about in-state, out-of-state, or military overseas. And I know we have another program to deal with that, but have you all begun talking about that particular issue? And what are you kind of game planning in regards to that?
Yeah, we just received that message from the U.S. Postal Service this last week, Stephen, and so we're going to take advantage of every opportunity we have, such as this one right here. Essentially, the U.S. Postal Service has warned us that if you drop a letter in the mailbox or at the post office, that they will not guarantee that it's going to get a postmark on the same day. So we're urging folks that if you're going to file for office, the deadline's January 31st at 11:59 p.m. If you wait until the last minute, I would urge you to go into your post office and ask them to hand cancel that postmark to make sure that it has the proper date. By law, we're required to reject any filings that come in late and through the mail. So thank you for reminding us all about that and helping us get the word out.
Back to the Office of Entrepreneurship, you said that one of the many services is navigating the government side or the regulation side of opening a small business. Will there be any other services? And you mentioned removing systemic barriers. Would there be services like ways to fill out loan applications or something like that?
Thank you. Let me just address some of that if I could. We need the funding to attract and hire 2 professional staff with experience and expertise in economics, business management, business law, and a willingness to potentially lead lucrative endeavors to join our efforts to help small business and entrepreneurs in West Virginia. So the funding will also allow us to acquire additional infrastructure and technology like sophisticated modeling software programs and licenses. And with those, we will purchase access to consumer data, market analysis and research, and consolidate publicly available information from other agencies and private entities to run and publish studies and reports, all to give direct help to small businesses and entrepreneurs. And with that accurate market statistics and research, that gives them the best opportunity to not just decide where to start their business or which areas of the state have a higher demand for their products and services, but also get their businesses off the ground and make it more than just a couple of years, and that's what we're seeing right now.
Could that also potentially connecting one small business with another?
We do that right now, and it's quite frankly, it's one of the things. It's a joy to be able to connect people with each other and then step back out of the way as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
With respect to public record reporting and accessibility, and forgive me, I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, but it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 35 counties utilize the IDX system for the records reporting, and it's a good system. It's accessible by the public. It's accessible by the media. A lot of mistakes get caught that way. It can help mitigate fraud. Is there any, or has there been any conversation with your office and the county clerks in different counties about getting all of the counties on the IDX system or a similar system to try to keep it uniform and make those records more readily accessible to people that may not be able to get to the clerk's office?
I'm going to make my chief of staff earn his salary right now. So, Deke, do you want to answer the question?
You heard the question.
Yes.
Okay. Thought we might have a better working relationship on that one.
Where are you? There you are. I'm Dean Kersey. I'm Chief of Staff, Secretary of State. So that's outside our bailiwick, but we did work with the legislature a couple of years ago to give counties funding for that purpose. The bill essentially split the property excise tax transfers that the legislature used to have, and it
brought them back to the county level. They're now at 100% staying at the county level, and 5% of that money is to go to a record room fund to enact that Property Electronic Recording Act. I didn't know the 35 county figure, but the counties right now, they're working on it, but I think that it's a matter of personnel. A lot of these counties have 2 staff. One of them's elections, one of them's record room, then you have the clerk. The short answer is we'll do whatever we can to incentivize it, but that's outside of our statutory duties and our constitutional role. But records, no doubt, need to be digitized, especially when we see courthouses burn down, or floods, things of that nature. The Capitol just dealt with that, and we ourselves lost a lot of records to that. So if the press or you or anybody's interested in conducting those kinds of conversations with the counties, we talk to them every single week. And it's not just about elections. So if this is an important issue, we're certainly happy to head that up as best we can.
Mr. Secretary, okay, the question in everybody's mind, you alluded to residency issues, you alluded to never resided residents. I can think of at least 3 stories recently, last few years, of candidates or political officials not living in their area of residence, but we'll leave that aside for a moment. Do you have numbers on this? I mean, I guess I'm curious what the scope of the problem is.
I can tell you that we had, I think in the last year, the last election, there were 40 phone calls to our offices by county clerks. Previous to that, it didn't appear to be a big issue. But with 40 calling in last year, if you just said there was one situation for that county clerk to pick up the phone and call, there are at least 40. But outside of that, we wouldn't know.
I mean, I don't disagree with the idea of locking it down, but it's just, it doesn't seem like that was one of the issues.
I can tell you, although I've not had it addressed with me personally in the last year, I can tell you Dave Cook in our office is the one that fielded every one of those 40-plus phone calls, and they felt that it was, of importance. Other questions? While she's doing that, you had asked about the Office of Entrepreneurship. I just want to let you know, we estimate that that's going to take about $350,000 per year for the next 2 consecutive years. You have other states like Indiana that have spent $1 million to open up an Office of Entrepreneurship, and we studied 7 other states that have opened up an Office of Entrepreneurship. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. When lawmakers were debating the voter ID bill that just passed, we were told that counties would be able to print those IDs free of charge to people when they requested them, and the bill didn't come with any funding. So I saw a story in the last couple of months that Hancock County got a grant to get a printer for these photo IDs. Are you aware that all 55 counties are now able to print those IDs free, or will you be tracking that as we go into the primary?
I'm going to confirm, and he can correct me if I'm incorrect, but yes, all 55 counties have the ability to be able to print the IDs for someone that needs a government-issued ID if they don't have a driver's license. Is that correct, Dee?
With one small correction, if the county doesn't have the printer, we do it for them. So we've had the printer for a number of years. So we have the application, the county will submit it to us, or they'll print it locally. It's either or. Some even go to the sheriff's office and print it there. It's very rare that it happens, but all the counties have the ability, either in-house, through the sheriff, or with us.
And I will take.
Before he gets up.
Yeah. Sure. You ran down at the beginning of this the changes that took place last session regarding election laws. We're going to have our first test of that this year. If we do see that there has been some sort of notable decrease in the number of registered voters or people who participate in the election, what work is your office going to do to sort of do an autopsy of what happened and where we're losing potentially, most likely, eligible voters who previously participated?
Well, with your question, I'll take that as a recommendation, as something that we need to be ready to perform that autopsy and look at that.
Thank you.